a retrograde churchgoer pursued by the angel of death, because of God's promise in his life. Hi, I'm Raphael Pellegrini. My brother Samuel sent me to talk about my story. He is always focused on the work of the Lord, but I was weaker than my brother, and I've never been so much like him. Today I'm on the rock and I'm going to share my testimony. I was the object of demons' anger. The issue was that I had called to serve the Lord and fish souls. It all started when my younger sister Pellegrino opened a doorway to the spirit world, and a demon entered in her. The demon in her life spoke in her mouth. Our grandfather was a doctor and evangelist who used to work in the hospital, where he worked and won many souls. He grabbed souls of dying patients from demons, reapers of souls stationed in hospital, and demons have lost the battle for souls of patients they thought belonged to them. He is after souls of dying patient, and he battled demons that dwell in the hospital to capture souls. However, my parents were rebels, vessels who will not follow the example of my grandfather, like Solomon that did not persevere and follow God as his father David. My parents did not like God and did not please God. My mom is still lives and today is someone else. Our parents raised us demeaning and humiliating their children. I was the older, thus I was the most persecuted. I wanted to be like my father who have been a great professional, but my father never agreed with me and always told me you are dumb, and when he opened a store he put me to work at the age of 16. He was a terrible professional for putting it in my head that I was incompetent. I wanted my father's approval but always received criticism. When I did wrong he criticized, and when I got it right he didn't praise me, and my parents criticized me and never spoke of my qualities in life. I lived with a headache for being with a head full of negative things. My father said I'm not good enough for him and for mum. Everything I did at home to please them failed. I went to church every day, praying and hoping they would say something good to me, but I did hear something that will motivate me. I was not in the vices that many young people are. This is not enough for them. As a result I started living a life of silence, not to argue with my parents. There was no smile and no family joy in that house. I started building rebellion towards my parents. This was my failure because the Bible tells us to honor our parents regardless whether they are prostitute and dealer. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is fair. Honor your father and your mother. This is the first commandment with promise. It makes no difference the type of person they are. This flaw of my parents threw me into the world of rebellion, where I was surrounded by everything good in the world, and with no alternative I went to live at my friend's house, where I started drinking and using drugs. I started going to dances with friends and come back at dawn. But one day I was driving back from the nightclub. To my surprise I saw a skeleton in black cloak following me. He was flying 2 meters above my car. He came after my soul. This was happening at dawn. I saw when a driver almost crashed my car, and then a motorcycle passed with the high speed that scratched the can of my car. I looked at that skeleton demon that was after my soul. He was the one who controlled those drivers that almost kill me. The spirit of death is terrible. He has waited for me to leave the church in order to try against my life. I discovered the demon's thirst and fury for my soul, yet I got involved in drugs trafficking world to pay for my debt. Satan worked in the heart of my boss at the company to have me fired. I was unemployed and I couldn't pay the debt, and at night, I saw the spirit of death walking through the yard. He was not the same skeleton that tried to kill me in the car accident. This spirit of death was different. He had different features on his skeletal face, different eyes that had red flames. The spirit of death that chased my car had eyes like 2 balls of yellow fire, and that spirit of death carried a cigarette on his hand. The other day 2 guys came to talk to me regarding debts. A deadline for me to pay my friend who gave up his house for me to live in was passed. When my dad threw me out, he asked me to go away from his house because of delinquency and the risk I posed. I left there and went to live at my girlfriend's house. The same spirit of death that had fiery red eyes and a marijuana cigarette in his hand was at the backyard gate, and every time something bad was to happen to me the spirit of death was appearing. This reaper spirit seems to control those who will do the cruel service of taking my life. There is a strong link between the reaper's spirit of death and bloodthirsty men. When I joined the drug trade, one of them spoke in my ear telling me to take lives. and I took pleasure in their advice and put it in my heart. I saw this demon at the gate. Later I saw this reaper in the room of my friend. My friend told me, the skeletal figure you see is just the effect of drugs, but I knew that the problem was not psychologic, it was of a spiritual problem. The truth is that this demon wanted to take my soul, because I knew the word and I was a church member. I was a spiritual giant asleep. The demons were afraid of the awakening of a fallen warrior, and they did everything to get me killed before I rose from the ashes of the souls of my friends, and they ignore my friend because they posed no danger to them. My friends were young rebels who didn't want to know about serving Jesus. I already had a desire to return to God. My father and my mother have received prophecies that one day I would go back to church. All this was a warning sign that motivated demons to fight and conquer my soul in order to drag me to hell. My parents were concerned with my life that sank in the mud of sin. They wanted me to come back to the path of the Lord. I was so used to the world that I no longer wanted to live life together with my parents. My parents sought God for family restoration and my return. Spiritual battle went on and my family did spiritual warfare prayer. My friend dealers in the drug world kept saying you see things because of too much drug. I started to think that that black-clad skeleton was fruit of my mind, and that's when this demon reaper of soul came into my room when I was awake, and he touched my neck. I could feel the bones of his skeletal hands. He said, I'm real. It is not my pleasure to reveal this. The God of your parents order me to prove my existence to you. I am not just an image of your mind. Later on, I was wanted by a drug lord for debt. I told them I was fired from the work and I was unable to pay my debt, and those men offered me a drug mouth job for me to pay my debts. An abyss calls another abyss. I was without option. I accepted the offer to avoid death, and I started to work in the mouth of drugs and I paid my debts. I also bought a piece of land and built a house. It felt like my problems were having a solution. However, every time I went up to the drug mouth to sell drug, the spirit of death was there after me. He brought evil to my life. Every day when I finished selling drugs I was always suspicious that something was going to happen to me. When I took my bike to come home on that day after work, I was halfway when a man drew his gun and started to shoot me. I can say I am alive because of God's intervention, for none of the bullet hit me, and I managed to escape the spirit of death. It was a murder attempt by a dealer who had been winning prestige in the village and making profits for drug mouth. When the drug mouth dealers learned that this man tried against my life, they capture him in public and all the neighborhoods was watching. I bought 2 more guns and one of them was a powerful gun of multiple shots by second. I wanted to protect myself even if God protected me on that day of the attack. This murder attempt was seen by a prophetess that said, she had a vision of many black holes opening on the earth, and a hand was pulling my soul beneath the earth in those craters. They were traps for me laid by demons to conquer my soul. The prophetess said it was the prayers of the church that have closed these craters of the earth, because spiritual warfare prayers in the spiritual world, demons came into a spiritual battle with the church over my soul. Without the strength to return to church, I continue in drug trafficking. I was promised to be the manager of that drug mouth in the next year, and before that happens the police broke into the house where the headquarters of the drug mouth was. We were arrested with 2 more traffickers. I was trapped and all my dreams of earning a lot of money was falling apart. I got arrested with a group of partners beside me, but my brother Samuel came to visit me and told me to return to the path of God. He brought some brothers to do the work within the prison. He was already carrying out this work of God before my arrest. I was happy to have my brother nearby me, and every night I saw many spirits of death walking around the prison. They were skeletons. You could see the darkness in the holes of their eyes. They were many, and the darkness that I saw in their eyes hole looked like they were ready to take souls to hell. And every time I saw the spirit of death in someone's cell, there was fights and even deaths. As soon as I saw that spirit of death near someone, days later that person was murdered. I saw many doors of hell opening in the floor of those prisons, and the souls going down from prison descending to hell, like sheep that are taken to slaughtered. With these visions and the beautiful work that my brother did inside the prison, I reconciled and returned to the Lord. Days later I saw a boy. He was demonized and influenced by a demon, and he came to stab me with a knife in my belly, and he gave a laughter like he was possessed. I'm sure it wasn't him there. I can only say that this boy always lived in peace with me. I always treated him well. The demons were furious because I have returned to the way of God, and they try to intimidate me by doing this so that I will give up on going back to God. When I was stabbed, my vision darkened and I started to see another vision I never saw. I saw the gate of hell. A force pulled me like a magnet, and when my soul left my body, I saw a demon reaper that came to capture my soul in order to drag me to hell. He looked different from the others. At that moment, a ball of light came down, and the demon reaper of soul that came to capture my soul escaped from the light at the gate of hell, upon which it was written in brass, "Welcome to hell." In the past I had 7 fatal attacks from demons that were after my soul. These attacks were steadfast in my life. Many things that happened were not coincidences or something normal. It is certain that the demons influenced several people against me. They manipulated and possessed them and influenced them to kill or injure me. I went to the hospital where I recovered and went back to serving my sentence. I helped my brother to do the work of God with him until I was free. God bless you who are listening this testimony.